The vast majority of structures on Earth are built in locations most favorable for human activity, near transportation routes, ports, and populated areas. However, there are corners of the planet where conventional rules do not apply. On sheer cliffs, amidst endless snowy expanses, in the middle of raging oceans, and in silent deserts, stand structures whose existence is driven by the pursuit of scientific discovery, the need for safety, or the imperative for survival. Some serve as beacons of salvation for ships. Others unveil the mysteries of the universe. Some carefully preserve the seeds of all known agricultural crops. And in certain places, people spend decades in complete isolation. All these buildings and settlements share one common trait. They were built where an ordinary person can almost never reach. Holy Trinity Church, Antarctica. On King George Island in Antarctica, home to numerous international stations, a unique religious structure was built, the Orthodox Trinity Church. Its Siberian larch components were shipped as a ready-to-assemble kit. Builders assembled the church on site, battling harsh weather conditions with temperatures below -20 degrees Celsius. This is one of the few permanent wooden structures on the entire Antarctic continent. The church stands approximately 15 meters tall, and its interior features icons, an intricately crafted wooden iconostasis, and a bell. Services are regularly held here, along with weddings and even baptisms for polar station personnel. During winter months, the church stands amidst perpetual darkness and continuous snowfalls. Yet its dome and cross remain visible from a great distance. Scientific teams from around the world view this place as a powerful symbol of human resilience, a willingness to preserve traditions even in the coldest and most remote corner of the planet. Bishop Rock Lighthouse. This lighthouse rises on the westernmost point of British territory, marking the edge of the Isles of Scilly archipelago. It is officially recognized as the smallest island in the world to host a building. The rock, no larger than a big house, is 70 kilometers from the nearest settlement. In the mid-19th century, this location became a deadly trap for ships returning from America. Powerful waves shattered vessels against underwater reefs, leading to the decision to build a lighthouse in 1847. The first design was a tower set on iron pillars to ensure its light was visible from afar, but it was never even put into operation. 3 years later, a powerful storm completely destroyed the structure, sweeping it into the sea. Construction then began anew, this time with granite, which was delivered by boat, unloaded onto a small ledge on the rock, and laid stone by stone. A caisson was used to lay the foundation, allowing the area below sea level to be drained, thus securely anchoring the base. The lighthouse first lit its lamp in 1858. Later, to ensure stability against the strongest storms, an additional layer of granite was added in 1881, increasing its height to 49 meters. When transporting service personnel by water became too dangerous, a helicopter pad was added to the roof in 1976. The lighthouse was fully automated in 1992. Today, it is one of the most isolated structures, with access entirely dependent on favorable weather windows in the Atlantic. Alert, Canada. On Ellesmere Island, in close proximity to the Arctic Ocean, lies the Alert military base and weather station, the northernmost permanently inhabited place on Earth. It is only 817 kilometers from the North Pole. Approximately 60 people live here year-round: military personnel, meteorologists, and radio interception specialists. The base was established in the 1950s during the Cold War as a strategically important observation point. In winter, temperatures drop below -40 degrees Celsius. Hurricane-force winds blow at speeds of up to 160 kilometers per hour, and the polar night lasts almost 5 months. In summer, Access is possible only by transport planes, which land on a specially prepared runway. Supplies of food, fuel, and necessary equipment are brought in huge quantities to sustain life throughout the winter. All buildings are connected by passages, allowing people to move around without venturing into the freezing air. Staff joke that Alert is a place where no one ends up by accident. People come here only by choice, consciously opting for a life of absolute isolation. Tash-Rabat. In the high-altitude Narin Valley, in the heart of Kyrgyzstan, stands an ancient stone structure, surrounded for tens of kilometers by only grassy hills and winding mountain trails. This is Tash-Rabat, a caravanserai that for hundreds of years served as a refuge for merchants traveling the Great Silk Road. Scholars suggest that it was originally a monastery in the 10th century. Later, as trade between China and Europe became widespread, the building was converted into a fortified resting point for travelers. Its domed vaults and sturdy stone walls reliably protected travelers from bandits and harsh frosts. In total, there are 31 rooms, storage areas, sleeping quarters, and a spacious central hall. All building materials were sourced directly from the surroundings: clay and roughly cut stone. Access to the site is still only possible by horseback or on foot. Currently, no one resides in the caravanserai itself, but yurts are set up at the foot of the hills, offering accommodation to tourists after a long journey. Taktsang Monastery, Bhutan. Taktsang Lakang, also known as the Tiger's Nest, is built directly onto a sheer granite cliff at an elevation of approximately 3,000 meters above the Paro Valley. According to ancient legend, it was here that the Buddhist saint Padmasambhava meditated, having arrived at the cave riding a tigress. The first structure appeared in the 17th century. The construction itself seemed almost impossible. Stones and massive beams were hoisted by ropes along narrow ledges, and workers lived directly on the construction sites, constantly risking a fall into the abyss. Access is only possible via a steep 6-kilometer mountain trail. Part of the path involves stairs and wooden bridges suspended over chasms. The monastery houses several temples, living quarters for monks, and secluded meditation caves. Despite its inaccessibility, pilgrims and tourists flock here annually, willing to overcome the significant altitude for the chance to see the sanctuary that literally floats above the clouds. In 1998, a fire almost completely destroyed the complex, but it was rebuilt with maximum historical accuracy. Today, Taktsang remains a powerful symbol of Buddhist faith and one of the most inaccessible active temples in the world. Svalbard Global Seed Vault. On the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard, just 1,300 kilometers from the North Pole, nestled deep within a mountain, lies one of the most strategically significant facilities on the planet. This is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, a unique place where hundreds of thousands of seed samples from all key agricultural crops on Earth are carefully collected. In the event of global war, a large-scale crisis or catastrophe, it is from here that the possibility will arise to restore food crops in any region of the world. The construction of this vault took place in 2008, initiated by the Norwegian government. The location was not chosen by chance. The cold permafrost, even without electricity, maintains a stable sub-zero temperature, and seismic activity here is minimal. The structure extends 120 meters into the mountain, and its entrance is located more than 130 meters above sea level, providing reliable protection for the seeds from flooding, even with the most intense glacier melt. Inside the vault are chambers maintained at a temperature of about -18 degrees Celsius, containing hermetically sealed containers with seeds from all corners of the globe. From the outside, the structure is barely noticeable, only a metallic facade, equipped with mirrors and fiber optic lighting, is visible. This important project is sometimes called the Doomsday Vault, but in reality, it functions daily. New batches of seeds are regularly delivered here to ensure the preservation of genetic diversity for future generations of humanity. Tristan da Cunha, UK. On a volcanic island, lost amidst the vast expanses of the South Atlantic, lies the settlement of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, the most remote, permanent human community on the planet. It is almost 2,800 kilometers from the coast of South Africa and over 3,300 kilometers from South America. Tristan da Cunha is a British overseas territory, home to approximately 250 people, most of whom are descendants of 19th-century settlers. The island is surrounded by inaccessible cliffs and the raging ocean, so access is exclusively by sea. Only a few times a year do cargo ships and extremely rare passenger vessels call here. For most of the time, the community lives in complete autonomy. Locals grow potatoes, raise livestock, fish, and harvest lobsters, which are then exported. Electricity is generated by diesel generators, and the island has a school, a medical clinic, and a small port. If someone becomes seriously ill, evacuation is only possible with favorable weather and after coordinating a flight, which can take up to 2 weeks to arrange. Tristan da Cunha serves as a vivid example of how people continue to exist in absolute isolation, maintaining a way of life that has remained almost unchanged for the past 100 years. Halley 6, Antarctic Research Station. On the Brunt ice shelf in Antarctica, where the 150-meter-thick ice sheet inexorably moves towards the ocean, stands the most meticulously designed polar station in the history of research. This is the 6th structure to bear the name Halley. 5 previous bases were destroyed due to extreme cold, continuously accumulating snowdrifts, and dangerous cracks in the ice. To avoid repeating this unfortunate experience, engineers developed innovative mobile modules mounted on giant steel skis and equipped with hydraulic legs. Each individual block of the station can be raised as snow accumulates and towed further inland if the glacier begins to crack. The entire structure is built strictly perpendicular to the prevailing winds. Snowdrifts form on one side, while the other remains clear for equipment and pedestrian walkways. Construction of the station began with the complete assembly of modules in South Africa, where they were thoroughly checked for air tightness and mechanical stability. Then, all equipment and structures were transported by sea and dragged onto the ice platform by special tractors. Work was carried out exclusively during the summer, when temperatures barely exceeded minus 30 degrees Celsius, and took a total of 3 seasons. Halley 6 opened in 2013. In summer, up to 52 people live and work here, while in winter, 16 polar researchers remain to endure the long polar night and harsh frosts down to minus 60 degrees Celsius. The station moves with the glacier. Each year it approaches the edge of the shelf by 400 meters, and in a few years it will have to be relocated again. Project Himmank, India. In northern India, in the high-altitude Ladakh region, Project Himmank is underway, an engineering unit responsible for constructing and maintaining roads and military positions at altitudes exceeding 5,000 meters. Some of the world's highest motorable roads pass through here, traversing the Kardung La, Tanglang La passes, and other Himalayan ranges. Most of these routes are accessible only during the summer. In winter, temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and roads become buried under meters of snow. Builders work in rarefied air, where even minor physical exertion causes shortness of breath. Teams constantly face the threat of avalanches, rock falls, and gale force winds. Isolation is so complete that materials and equipment are brought in during a short season, and base camps operate autonomously for many months. Project Himank holds strategic importance. These roads ensure the supply of army units and border settlements. For India, construction here has become a true symbol of engineering perseverance. Even at such dizzying heights and in an extreme climate, permanent routes and vital military infrastructure are maintained. Sphinx Observatory. At the summit of the Swiss Alps, at an altitude of 3,571 meters above sea level, stands an observatory still considered Europe's highest permanent research station. The Sphinx was built in 1937, after engineers laid a railway through the mountains and constructed the Jungfraujoch station. This allowed materials and equipment to be delivered almost directly to the construction site. Only the last few hundred meters across the glacier remained. The complex includes research laboratories and an observation deck, often called the Top of Europe. Here, scientists study astronomical phenomena, atmospheric processes, and glaciers. Over time, the observatory has undergone several modernizations. New telescopes and instruments were installed, and structures were reinforced to withstand constant hurricane-force winds. A unique feature of the station is that it can be accessed through a tunnel drilled through the mountain massif. An elevator takes visitors directly to the dome with the telescopes. The Sphinx has become a famous tourist attraction. People come to admire the mountain peaks and glaciers, but the primary and most important guests remain the scientists, for whom the altitude provides a unique opportunity to conduct observations without interference from urban light pollution and atmospheric moisture. Ascension Island, Royal Air Force, UK. In the heart of the vast Atlantic Ocean, almost equidistant from the African and South American coasts, lies the UK's Royal Air Force Base, known as RAF Ascension Island. This strategically important aviation and telecommunications hub was established during World War II. Today, its airfield is actively used for transit flights, military transport, and supporting British operations in the Falkland Islands. Several hundred people permanently reside on the island: military personnel, civilian staff, and specialists maintaining tracking stations and satellite infrastructure. Thousands of kilometers separated from the nearest continents, and regular supplies are delivered via cargo ships and infrequent charter flights. All necessary electricity is generated by diesel generators, and drinking water is obtained from desalination plants. The island is of volcanic origin, almost entirely covered in solidified lava and craters. There are no freshwater bodies, no permanent local population, and virtually no vegetation except for introduced species. Life on the base means working in complete isolation. Any evacuation or delivery requires careful coordination of flights through several countries and lengthy preparation. Eso Hotel. In the heart of the Atacama Desert, where less than 1 centimeter of precipitation falls per year, a unique complex was built, almost invisible from the surface. The Eso Hotel was not constructed to attract tourists, but to allow scientists from the European Southern Observatory to work for months in isolation. This region is famous for its exceptional conditions for astronomical observations. At an altitude of 2,400 meters, there are almost no clouds, and the air is extremely dry and clear. To avoid disturbing the natural landscape of the desert, the building was placed in a natural depression, leaving only the dome of an internal garden visible. The entire structure is made of concrete, brick, and metal, would have been too expensive and would not have blended well with the landscape. For construction, water had to be brought in by tankers to mix concrete directly on site. Even today, the seamless operation of the complex depends directly on regular water deliveries. The building includes 108 living rooms, a swimming pool, a sauna, a library, and workspaces. Thick concrete walls, painted red, help regulate the temperature. During the day, desert air can heat up to plus 40 degrees Celsius, while at night, temperatures drop close to zero. The hotel gained widespread fame after appearing in the James Bond film Quantum of Solace. In reality, however, only astronomers come here, living for months amidst absolute silence and one of the clearest star-filled skies in the world. Pitcairn Island Settlement, UK. In the southern Pacific Ocean, where thousands of kilometers around stretch nothing but open water, lies Pitcairn Island, the last home of the descendants of the mutineers from the legendary ship Bounty. Only about 50 people live in the sole settlement, named Adamstown. The nearest inhabited land, Tahiti, is over 2,000 kilometers away. Pitcairn has no airport. Access is exclusively by sea, with a cargo ship approaching the island only once every few months, delivering food, medicine, and mail. The island has diesel generators, a school, a radio station, a small store, and local administration. Residents practice subsistence farming, raising livestock, collecting honey, and growing fruits. The island is covered in dense tropical vegetation, and the coastline consists of steep cliffs and reefs, so the jetty can only be used in calm weather. There are no regular doctors, and in case of serious illness, evacuation can take weeks. Despite its complete isolation, Pitcairn remains a British territory with its own self-governance. It is one of the most inaccessible and smallest communities on the planet, where every resident knows their family history back several centuries. Lighthouses, bases, temples, and research stations stand where the ocean rages, where polar winds blow, where kilometers of cliffs and ice separate them from civilization.